next practice is one that I created. This practice is one that I put together during the pandemic when a lot of folks were struggling with low back and hip issues because of being home more and sitting more. However, it's super useful if you've done a drive or you just have a day where you've been sitting at your desk a lot. So any time that you've been sitting a lot or just feel like you need to bring some movement into your hips, create some ease in your low back. So this is a lying down practice. So we'll start lying on our backs. And then we'll take a moment just to check in. So stretch out and take notice of how your body feels resting on the floor. And of course, if it's not comfortable to have outstretched legs, go ahead and come to constructive rest. It's nice to check in with legs out extended just to kind of see what you notice. And then go ahead and draw your knees in towards your chest. Rock a little side to side or make some circles with your knees in both directions. And maybe knees go in opposite directions instead of together. So just kind of, this is a nice way to bring some ease into the low back. And then you'll come from here either back to constructive rest or to legs outstretched, arms overhead if that's okay on your shoulders. You'll inhale here, and as you exhale, you'll draw your right knee in, reach up and clasp your hands around your knee or behind your knee, and exhale, draw your knee in towards your chest. And then inhale, come back to that extended position, and then exhale, other side. So you'll alternate side to side. Complete the exhalation, squeezing that knee in, and then inhale, back to extension, side to side, following your own breath rhythm. Next time that your right knee is in, you'll pause. And we're going to start with the toes here. So on your inhaling breath, you'll curl your toes towards the sole of your foot. And as you exhale, you'll pull your toes towards your shin. And try to isolate the movement in the toes. The foot might want to help it. See if you can resist that. And then you'll shift your attention to your ankle. And on your inhaling breath, you'll point the top of your foot away from you. And as you exhale, you'll pull the top of your foot towards your shin. And just going with your natural breath rhythm here. Letting the movement follow the breath. And taking notice of how this movement feels in the ankle joint. Is it smooth? Is it sticky? Are there catches? And you might notice that more in the next movement. Circling the foot around the ankle joint. Again, noticing how the range feels. Does it feel like a circle? Does it feel like a square? And then reverse the direction of those circles. And now you'll shift your attention to your knee joint. So if your hands were around your shin, you're going to shift them to behind your thigh. And on your inhaling breath, you'll lift your foot towards the sky. And then as you exhale, you'll slowly lower your heel towards your bum. So inhale, extending your knee. And then exhale, bending that knee slowly, lowering your heel towards your bum. Again, following your natural breath rhythm. No need to make your breath any bigger or manipulate your breath in any way. Just following your natural breath. And now we're going to shift our attention to the hip joint. So you'll take hold of the knee and you're going to circle your knee around and see if you can feel into that movement in the hip pelvis relatively stable here. So again, the movement's happening in the hip joint and not the pelvis rocking side to side, and then circling in the opposite direction. And then go ahead and extend that right leg next to left and give yourself a moment just to take in side to side differences. Just those simple movements can bring a lot of ease. And then again, if it's okay on your shoulders, take your arms back over your head. Inhale here. Exhale now. The left knee comes in. And we'll take that whole sequence left side. So inhale, toes curl away from you or towards the sole of your foot. Exhale, they pull towards your shin. And again, trying to keep the foot relatively still and isolate this movement in the toes. Notice if these toes feel any more or less mobile than the other foot. And now shifting to the ankle, so pointing the top of the foot away from you as you breathe in, pulling it towards your shin as you breathe out. No need to strain to make the movement extra big, but to take notice of how it feels. Does this side feel different from first side? And then transitioning to circles. And is that different? Are there any clicks or sticky spots? Reversing the direction of those circles. And now we'll shift our attention to knee joints. So again, you want to have your hands behind your thigh. And then inhale, lifting your foot towards the sky. Exhale, lowering it slowly towards your bum. Following your own breath rhythm, the inhale to lift, the exhale to lower. And then finally, attention on the hip joint. So circling, I'm saying circling the knee, but you're thinking of circling the thigh bone, the femur in the hip joint. And then reversing the direction of those circles. And these circles can be big or small, whatever feels good to you. Again, noticing the quality of the movement. And then you'll stretch that left leg out next to right. Give yourself a moment to check in and notice what you notice. Now you'll come to constructive rest. So both knees bent, both feet flat on the floor. So this movement is, on your inhaling breath, you're going to reach your knee forward. It's like the knee is trying to look over your toes. And then as you exhale, you'll bring your knee back and your pelvis will come to settle on the floor. So inhale, knee reaches forward, that pulls your hip up off the floor. And then as you exhale, you'll let it come back to settle. And you want to come back to completely settling that foot or that hip back on the floor before you go into the next round. So that slow, controlled, complete release is a really important part of this movement. This is a movement that comes from somatic movement education. And then go ahead and stretch out and just take notice. Did that change anything in how you're feeling side to side? And then we'll come back to constructive rest. And now left side, knee reaches forward as you breathe in and then comes back as you breathe out. And remember, each time you come back, you want to make your way to completely releasing, completely letting go. That bum comes to settle completely on the floor. to side. So you'll go from right knee reaching forward, slow, controlled, complete release, and then left knee reaches forward. Slow, controlled, complete release. Side to side, just a few times. And then coming into that baseline position, so a starting position, just to check in. So after each of these movements, it can be really useful to check in to find out which ones are give you the release that you need the most, so that if you just need to do an on-the-spot release, you know how to do that, or you know which one will be the most useful. So we're back in constructive rest. This time we're taking our feet wider apart. We're going to work with internal rotation. So the right knee is going to reach towards the left foot as you breathe in, and then come back to neutral as you breathe out. Now you can add the right arm gliding along the floor in that kind of snow angel position. And again, not straining in these movements. Bigger is not better. So keeping yourself within a range that feels like you can maintain a sense of ease. And then next time right knee reaches towards left foot, we're going to pause there. You're trying not to let your left knee roll open to the left. So it's not a spinal twist. If you keep that knee up, you get more of this internal rotation in that leg. So we're just going to pause here for a couple of breath cycles. Kind of letting the gravity draw you more deeply into this position, maybe as this TFL, IT band, psoas, as you get some release in that area, if you do. So it might not happen today. And then next time you exhale, lift that knee, glide your arm back to your side, stretch out your legs once again, check in. What do you notice? Make your way back to constructive rest, and that very constructive rest where the feet are a bit wider apart than hip width. And now your left knee reaches towards your right foot, and maybe your left arm glides overhead along the floor. Inhale, left knee reaches towards right foot, and then exhale, coming back to your starting position. And then next time that the left knee reaches towards the right foot, pause. And just kind of let your body hang out here for a moment, responding to gravity. Remember, we all have asymmetries in our bodies, so this may feel completely different on this side compared to the first side. In the next breath or two, releasing, and once again, taking a moment of baseline check-in. What do you notice? Make your way back to constructive rest. So that position was internal rotation. Now we'll work with external rotation. So you'll bring your ankle, right ankle on your left knee. And it could be that you get plenty of stretch here, and this is just right for you to stay here. You want to try to keep your pelvis square as you lift that left foot up off the floor, if that works. And you'll inhale, kind of draw your knee in. Exhale, let it release away. You're welcome to hold on to your leg, but if it creates a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders, better not to do that. And then next time you draw your knee in, let yourself pause here for a few breath cycles. You can deepen the intensity of this by pressing your tailbone down towards the floor, by pressing that right knee forward, either using your hand or just using your leg. Or if it's lifted, uncross your leg, stretch out. Give yourself a moment to take in the effects of that stretch. Make your way back to constructive rest. And now, of course, left ankle on right knee. And again, it could be that you stay right here and just maybe kind of wag that knee in and out. Or maybe take your foot up off the floor. Inhale, draw your knee in. Exhale, let your knee drift a little away. You'll feel the stretch get a little deeper as your knee draws in, trying to keep your pelvis square here. And then next time you draw your knee in, pausing, holding for a few breath cycles. Relaxing in the shoulders, the jaw, the muscles around the eyes as best you can. And then in the next breath or two, on an exhalation, release your right foot to the floor and cross your left leg, stretch out, take it in. What do you notice at this point in your practice? Come back to constructive rest. Tune into your breath. Next time you breathe in, press your tailbone down towards the floor so your low back arches away from the floor. And as you exhale, press your low back into the floor. Bigger is not better. So just a gentle tip and tuck of the pelvis. Inhale, increasing that arch in the low back away from the floor. Exhale, low back lengthens and presses towards the floor. Scoop your hands behind your head. We're going to continue the movement with the pelvis, but the next time that your low back flattens, you're going to lift your head and shoulders a little towards the sky. And then as you inhale, you'll set your head down and press your tailbone back into the floor. So exhale, low back presses down, head and shoulders lift up. Inhale, head down, low back arches away from the floor. So next time we're going to change it up. So you'll exhale, lift your head. Now as you inhale and set your head down, try to keep your low back flattened on the floor, those abdominal muscles engaged. And you're going to stay like that and take a couple of breaths so that the breath needs to find its way more into the circumference of the rib cage, maybe even into that space under the shoulder blades. And of course, if this creates strain or a sense of shortness of breath, let go and just breathe naturally. Next time you inhale, go ahead and release your pelvis to a neutral position. So that was an abdominal strengthener. We'll take one more abdominal strengthener before we finish up here. So for this one, you're going to take notice of the arch under your low back, and you're going to keep that stable as you lift your feet up off the floor. Bring your hips and your knees to a 90-degree angle. On the exhaling breath, you want to feel that deep abdominal tone, and then inhale, it can soften a bit. Next time you exhale and find that abdominal tone, you're going to tap your right toes to the floor. See if you can keep the exhale going as you lift. Inhale, relax. Exhale, engage. Now left toes tap. And continue exhaling as you lift. Inhale, relax. Exhale, back to right. Inhale, relax. Exhale, back to left. And lift. Inhale, relax. Now, if you want more out of this than you're getting, you can tap your toes further away and lift. Just make sure that you don't go into an arch when you tap your toes. So if your back goes into a big arch, then you're using more of those back muscles, and we want to really focus on these abdominal muscles. The closer in you are, the less load that is on your abdominal muscles. So kind of play around with what's the just right spot for you. And then next time that you tap your left toes will be the last time. Go ahead and draw your knees in. Rock a little side to side. And then please stretch out and take at least a moment in Shavasana. So legs outstretched. Of course, if this is uncomfortable on your low back, making sure that you bring a bolster or a blanket under your knees. You're also welcome to come to constructive rest for this relaxation. Giving yourself a moment to settle, integrate. And then bring yourself back slowly, inviting a deeper breath, bringing in some gentle movements. Maybe drawing your knees in and rocking a little side to side. It might feel good to come to rest on one side for a moment. And then make your way slowly to a seated position. Thank you for practicing with me.